Hey everyone, my name is Todd Bigelow. For the past 30 years, I've been a freelance photographer based primarily out of Los Angeles, an adjunct professor of photography and photojournalism, and a soon-to-be author on a book on freelance business practices. This is 2 Minutes with Todd, where I break down business topics that freelancers face on a near daily basis. Let's get into it. So I'm going to circle back today to talk a little bit about contracts again. Not contracts as a whole, but a specific clause in a contract. That clause is the perpetual clause, which is not how it's normally called in the contract. It's usually a term that will pop up, and I like to refer to these as like a trigger term. So if you see the in perpetuity word, the phrase, statement, or the word perpetual in a contract, you want to pay attention to that. So what does in perpetuity mean? What does perpetual mean? It means forever. So when it's in a contract that is governing the rights to your work, whether that's an assignment contract that's been presented to you, or somebody's coming to you and asking you to license, or in any way, even you're submitting your images to a contest, any sort of terms that are governing the use of your work, be very, very cautious with in perpetuity. So recently, a former workshop student and a college student right now was providing an assignment by a similar client, a large corporation, and it was a media corporation. And he sent me that clause. And I'm glad that it caught his attention. And he wanted to know, what did I think about this? And this is exactly what I told him. There's no reason to provide in perpetuity to a client unless it is in the original context. So that's how you want to handle that clause in a contract. You want to add to it in original context. What does that do? Simple. It means that whoever wants to use your work, they will have perpetual rights to it in the original context that it's used. So if you're assigned a protest, if you're assigned a feature, if you're assigned a portrait of any kind, and they run that image with the story, it goes on their website, it goes in their print publication if they still have one, whatever the case might be, that's the original context. They're going to archive it on their website. It's going to stay on their website. So in perpetuity will govern their rights for them to keep it on their website, but it's in that original context. What they do not get when you add that clause in original context is the right to continue to use that work however they want forever. So if it just says in perpetuity and you grant those rights, they can take those images and they can use them in an additional story the next day, the next week, the next month. They can use them in books. They can use them in any sort of anything. Fundraising, if it's a nonprofit, they can use it in any manner because you granted them rights in perpetuity, okay, which just means forever. Oftentimes that in perpetuity, if you continue to read through the clauses, you'll see with no additional compensation, which again means you're providing images to the client to use forever for no additional compensation. That should not be the case. You need that additional compensation. You've been hired to provide the images, whether an assignment or through licensing, for a specific reason. They get to use them for that specific story. If they want to use it in any other way later, they should come back to you, request that use, pay a nominal standard fee to use it again, and you proceed forward. That's how it should be done. I have many clients. I'm very fortunate to have good clients that actually offer that in their original contract. So the original contract does say in its original use or in original context. There's different ways to phrase it, but it's very clear it's in the way that they're assigning that work. That's how they get the perpetual use and nothing further. Keep that in mind, please, because you want to try to negotiate that in. I recently did that with a project towards the end of summer that I licensed to Vox. Their standard contract said in perpetuity. I merely asked, and they simply agreed to. There's nothing hard about it, I said, can you add in original context? And they said, sure. And they added that in, which means they can keep it on their website. It's still on their website. But they also know that if they were going to use any of the images from that original use in any other time, in any other way, they would simply have to come back to me and request that use. And we would again agree to just a simple fee for that extra use. Okay, so as a freelancer, control your work, as I like to say. Keep it fair so that you're working with your client, but do not hand over rights to use your images forever, which is what in perpetuity means. Keep that in mind going forward.